Hello, everyone, and welcome to this debate for school committee for 2025. Hosted, of course, by ACMi. I am James Milan, and we welcome the candidates in the order in which they appear on the ballot. We have Len Cardin and Dmitry Vasilyev and Kiersey Allison Ampey. Welcome to all three of the candidates. Just a quick summation of the format that we will be following. There will be 1-minute opening statements from each of the candidates. The order for those was chosen at random before we went on air. And that will be followed by 3 prepared questions, questions that I have to pose to the 3 candidates. Each of the candidates will have 2 minutes to answer each of those questions. Then we will move to a round in which each of the candidates has a chance to pose a question to the other 2. Those responders will have 2 minutes each to answer that question. And finally, the person who asked the question will have a chance for a 1-minute rebuttal. We'll go through all 3 candidates offering questions of their own, 1 each, and then we will conclude with closing statements of a minute each. So with our thanks to the candidates for their attendance, we'll get right to it. With opening statements, the order for those opening statements, as determined, as I said, randomly before we went on air, will be Len Cardin going first, then Kiersey Allison Ampey, and finally Dmitry Vasilyev. So if you are ready, then let us start with you and your opening statement, Len Cardin.
Hello, I'm Len Cardin, and I'm running for another term on the school committee. I was first elected to the school committee 9 years ago and have a record of accomplishments over those 9 years, including, most importantly, securing important funding for our schools. Working with Dr. Allison Ampey, who either she or I, who have chaired the budget subcommittee for the last 9 years, we've achieved a 6.9% funding increase for our school average over the last 9 years. This has allowed us to add staffing to address enrollment increases, special education, social emotional needs, and other key areas. And I want to build on those accomplishments. In particular, we are in the middle of a strategic plan. We worked very hard to get a strategic plan in place. One of the things I ran on 9 years ago was that we needed to have a strategic plan. And finally, in 2023, after a process that involves—
Thank you, sir. Got to cut you off there. Sorry, it's a 1-minute opening statement.
Yeah.
Kiersey Allison Ampey.
Hi, I'm Kiersey Allison Ampey, and I'm running for re-election for the Arlington School Committee to continue improving our schools. With 15 years of experience and proven problem-solving skills, I'm committed to helping make informed decisions which ensure a strong educational system for all. In terms of specific accomplishments, I've been a member of the Arlington High School Building Committee since its inception. I've worked on project communication strategy as well as general committee work, and I'm so glad to see the final stages opening now. I served, as Mr. Cardin mentioned, as chair of the budget subcommittee, alternating with him, and was chair of the school committee last year. And as co-chair of the recent Invest in Arlington campaign, I helped pass the successful art override, which allowed us to bargain with our teachers to increase their salaries to meet the average of comparable communities. The next few years will present challenges, and my experience will be an asset in keeping our schools on track. I hope you will consider casting one of your 2 votes for me on Saturday, April 5th.
Thank you very much. And Dmitry Vasilyev.
Hello, my name is Dmitry Vasilyev. I'm running for school committee. I'm asking for your vote. I'm running on behalf of Arlington Math Parents, which is a new group formed by parents dedicated to improving academic level across the board for all children in Arlington. We aim at this improvement, especially in math, because according to statistics and equivocal data, a very significant fraction of students are left behind by a really extremely easy curriculum, and we're losing a lot of talent in an equitable way. is that students who cannot afford, whose families cannot afford acceleration programs like APS or RSM, they're basically left with a really, really, really basic program which doesn't set them for success. I hope for your vote. Thank you.
And thank you. Moving right into the first round of prepared questions. To remind you, we will take these in the order in which the candidates appear on the ballot. That is, again, Len Cardin going first, then Dmitry Vasilyev, then Kirsty Allison Ampe. So, question number one, and again, you have 2 minutes to respond. Please describe how your specific experience, and that's both professional and personal, is or would be a clear asset to the duties and functions of the school committee.
Great, thank you. So in my professional life, I'm an attorney. I'm one of 3 attorneys, I think, on the committee, and that does lend itself to bringing that point of view to the committee. I'm a member of the Policies and Procedures Subcommittee, and when things come up, like the recent conversation around DEI, I can bring that lens to the committee and help understand how the legal landscape is changing. But more importantly, I first became involved in town politics because of the financial crisis we had back in 2010. And my prior career was in budgeting, public budgeting. And so I've been on the budget subcommittee 8 of the 9 years, and I've been deeply involved in building our budget, building the case for financing for our schools. It's a very difficult task to convince the select board to put an override on the ballot, because that's the only way we get increased funding. And we've done that twice so far, and we'll have to do that again next year. So I think I also had children in the Arlington Public Schools. I still have one left who's in a regional program through Arlington, and 2 who have graduated and moved on. So as a parent, former parent, and as a lawyer, and as a budget sort of not expert, but as close as one can be as a non-full-time person, I bring all of that to the committee, and I hope to continue to build on those accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. Dmitry Vasilyev.
Thank you. Yeah, it is very interesting that I feel like my personal and professional life and education really led me to this position in a really interesting ways, almost serendipitously. I have although I have a technical degree, I have a PhD at MIT, and I appreciate the strong math and how much math is important. And I also have a degree in pedagogy, and I approach a lot of these issues from the eyes of teachers and from the eyes of children. I have 3 children. All of them are, say, they're basically 14, 11, and 9. So I am really in maybe 3 shoes, and I can relate to a lot of sides to this. From the perspective of an educator, I got a European education in when it comes to pedagogy, and I have that more traditional approach. It's much not quantitative, although I'm a data scientist, so I know numbers and I know how numbers lie. And basically, the way how politicians portray numbers very often is misleading. So I have a lot of tools to provide a lot of difference in the way how we analyze success of children, how we perceive how children feel, and basically I have a skin in the game. I have kids in Arlington Public Schools. I think I'm planning to be very engaged and be a voice for children. That's probably what I will say for this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Kirsty Allison Ampe.
Thank you. So I began on the school committee in 2010 because I was worried about how things were working on, at that point, people were not being civil to each other. They weren't getting things done. It was really concerning. I had 2 daughters. One wasn't even in school yet. The other was in 2nd grade. And I wanted to do something to make it better. The reason I ran is that I had the sense that part of the problem with the schools was that they weren't getting enough funding. And part of the reason they weren't getting enough funding was that they needed to have more, basically, firepower behind numbers in terms of making cases for what they needed, analyzing what the use of their money, and presenting all of this stuff in a coherent way to the Long Range Plan Committee. And basically, I got on then, and that's what I've been doing. One of the main things I was trying to do over my tenure has been to increase teachers' pay. When I came on, people were talking about numbers, and we couldn't even agree what numbers we were talking about, because teacher pay is confusing because they have steps and lanes. They get paid depending on their academic degrees, depending how long they've been experienced. And you can't just average, say, a school district's salaries and compare that to another. So I came up with a way of comparing that with a select board member and teacher union member. That approach has been used by the town since that time, since 2011. And basically, I've been working through all these arguments with the Long Range Planning Committee that Mr. Carden talked about. And we were able to, that culminated in the campaign in 23, and since then we've been able to increase teacher salaries to a level comparable with our comparable communities. So thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, and Dmitry Vasilyev, you will be the first respondent here. As has been previously mentioned, the town is looking at a budget deficit of more than $12 million coming up within the next couple of years. If hard choices have to be made about spending on Arlington schools, what is one area you would be willing to consider trimming, and why?
This is
Dmitry Vasilyev.
This is a hard question, and it's so I will look at perspective of children. Whatever cuts needs to be made, they needs to be least affecting children, and then up the chain. So putting kids first. So and what is the least affecting? So for this, I will need to rely on other members of committee because I honestly do not have this experience. And I will, if I will get elected, then I will be working with whoever I dismissed. So I also have Arlington math parents to guide me through this, who have expertise, and we have very capable individuals. So I really am. I do not have an answer for this, and I will develop the plan according to these guidelines that schools should serve children, and we should, as much as we can, give them the best education given the situation. That's all it is.
Thank you, sir. Kirstie Allison Ampe.
So for that one, it's going to depend on exactly what the deficit, how much money we're having to make up. And there are going to, for example, if we just had to make up the federal funding, which we might be losing, that has different implications than does if we have to do the full 12 million. I would base my decisions on my values. I think all children are important, no matter their race, religion, gender preference, or sexual orientation, pronouns, immigration status, or special needs. And I would look at what the options are. Definitely, we would probably try and reduce non-student facing positions as much as possible, but we can't reduce it too much or the schools become dysfunctional. The other thing you can do is increase the class size. And that's when I started on school committee. My daughter was in a class of around 30. So these are very different. But that can go up. So basically I would look at what's the exact situation we're dealing with, and I would use the values that I have and then make decisions based on those values. Thank you.
Thank you. And Len Carden.
Thank you. So it would be a very difficult process. We would rely on the administration to come up with proposals. Since we're not able to do an override in advance of the issue like we did last time, we will, as a committee, have to work on a budget that assumes an override does not pass next year and does result in significant cuts. I'm hoping it won't be 12 million, but there still may be a potential for $4 or $5 million cut in our expected funding, and that's a huge amount. So we will, as others have said, look at non-student facing positions. We added, as our schools grew, we added assistant principals, we added additional social workers. Those social workers actually are student facing, so I don't want to single them out, but they aren't in the classroom. So we're going to have to balance all of those needs. We may be able to eliminate some teachers and have class sizes of 25 instead of 22, things like that. Lots of bad choices. So we also need to be very clear with the public that this is the option. If they don't support an override, there are going to be these huge cuts. But we also need to make sure those cuts are realistic and that they're things that we follow through on if the override does not pass. So we don't want to go out and say, well, we're going to close a school if the override doesn't pass, and then find out, well, actually, we're not going to close the school because that's too difficult. So it's going to be a difficult process. We're all going to have to work together over the next year to figure out those things. Again, I think I have the experience to help lead that. Thank you.
And before we move on to the third question, I do want to acknowledge that was a tough one, and I appreciate the good faith effort of all of you to answer it. Thank you for that. Moving on to question number 3, and this will be directed to you initially, Kiersey Allison Ampe. Please choose one area of the K-12 curriculum in Arlington and share your vision of what it could or should look like in 5 years' time.
Okay. I would choose ELA, and what I want it to look like in 5 years' time is that the EL curriculum, which is, the names are very confusing, right? EL is actually the name of the curriculum. It is a reading science-based curriculum that works to improve reading skills of kids by making sure that they learn more about the topic, not just the very specific things of this is what a nonfiction text is like, and this is what a fiction text is. You know, these are the components of a fiction text and stuff. But they have areas of study like turtles or something, and they read all sorts of different texts about that. And so they both accumulate a knowledge base in that specific area, and then that allows them to better understand the reading. And so in 5 years, my ideal would be to see all of our reading gaps decreasing with our focal groups, because this is an improved curriculum and it allows supplements for kids who are struggling, and I would hope that that would bring their scores up even more. And I'd like to see all of our kids in 3rd grade reading at grade level or beyond. So,
thank you, Len Carden.
Thank you. So while one of our roles is to review and approve changes to the curriculum, it typically isn't something that the committee leads. So certainly we can, express our interest to the administration, but typically they're the experts. They're the ones with education degrees, and they're the ones that can evaluate the test scores, evaluate the other data that they have to see what's working and what's not. So we have invested a lot in our ELA curriculum, as Kirsty mentioned. I do think that it is time. I've been on the committee for 9 years, and I believe the math curriculum was implemented long before that. So I do believe that over the next 5 years, it's time to take a look at both the specific materials that we're using. So the curriculum actually is dictated sort of the sort of grand scheme of what everybody has to learn. Those standards are set by the state, but the actual materials that we use to reach those standards are chosen by the district. So when people say curriculum, sometimes they mean one of those things, sometimes they mean the other, and they certainly do overlap. As Dimitri has mentioned, in his campaign, we're using materials called Turk Math in our elementary schools, which has led to a lot of successes as far as test scores are considered. But I do think it's time to take a look at that and determine if that's the best materials to be using and how we can differentiate and whether that is a good match for what we're now using in ELA. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Dmitry Vasilyev.
Thank you. Yes, I will choose, of course, the area which is math, which I think is very neglected and very important in that it is really almost a life skill in this day and age. It is, numbers are everywhere, and with the advent of AI, importance of math only grows. It is kind of like, to operate calculator, you go beyond just calculations on the paper. Then more sophistication requires to program a computer. Right now with AI, it's even more sophistication, and the demands are only growing. We developed a lot. We have a lot of ideas, and we developed a plan with Arlington math parents. And first of all, it's right now this area is really neglected, in that a lot of big portion of children are held back. And I totally agree with Len, is that this curriculum of Turk is really inadequate. And it's been widely criticized. It was an unfortunate choice and should be reconsidered. That's one thing. And another one is we need to increase flexibility. We need to listen to our children. When a children's board wants to accelerate, we need to say yes. We need to follow where they desire to go. And also, even to the extreme when they think that they overestimate their abilities, we can let them safely fail. This is part of a growing experience. Do not sandbag them. For this, we need to develop flexible pathways. We can allow them to change into more difficult track, or veer towards easier one. We decided to too much for them. That's not tracking. This is just flexibility and multiple pathways. So that's my plan around that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to all three of you. We're going to move on to the next section, and we will begin again with the top of the ballot, and that's Len Cardin. You have a chance up to 30 seconds here to pose a question to your fellow candidates, and they will have 2 minutes to respond each, and you will get a 1-minute rebuttal afterwards. So, Len Cardin.
Thank you. So my question is, did you support and or participate in the last override campaign, and how would you convince the voters to support another tax increase for our schools if that's necessary?
Dmitry Vasilyev, you're first.
This is a very hard question, and I will rely on the expertise of others. So I'm very new to politics, and I will follow again, the same principles that I'm here for children. If there is need to be fundraised to fund schools, to provide more funding to pay teachers, we have to do what we have to do. I do not have anything beyond that to say. So I will rely on the expertise of people who have done this, and my Arlington Math Parents Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiersey, Allison Ampe.
Great, thank you. So I co-chaired the last override campaign. That meant that I, together with the chair of the board of the select board and the chair of the finance committee, all worked together to make sure that this campaign came together. We made sure that it got on the ballot, and then we made sure that people were out getting the voters out to support it. And we were approving the materials that needed to go out to voters. We were helping create those in various degrees. And this is, it's a ton of work. It's hundreds of people in town putting in hundreds and thousands of hours to do this. And you don't have to be a politician to work on this. You don't have to be anyone special. And I hope those who are watching this understand that and are willing, if you support our schools, you need to be out when we come and say that we need to do this. It's unfortunate that we are in a state where we have to do overrides like this, but that's the way the state has set up the funding formula. The DOR foundation budget suggests that for next year, given our increase, we need to spend around $4 million more, but they only expect to give us less than $1 million of that in additional state funding. Arlington is expected to come up with the other $3 million. And that's just at the bottom of the funding. So in terms of convincing people for the next one, I think we're gonna have to look at what's the option. The way the funding is set up, either we have an override or we don't have funding. And we're just going to have to present that choice to the voters and make the best case we can.
Thank you. And Len, 1 minute rebuttal.
Thank you. So yes, to answer my own question, I participated with Kiersey on the communications committee for the last campaign, which was crucial again, and explaining to people both how budgeting works in Massachusetts and in Arlington, and why the funding for the schools was needed, in particular to bring our salaries in line with our comparable communities. I was the co-chair of the campaign previous to that, which was another operating override combined with the high school funding. So I do have a lot of experience in working on these campaigns, and I wouldn't say I'm looking forward, but I'm certainly ready to start next spring on the next campaign. And as Kiersey mentioned, we'll have to be very clear about what gets cut if the vote does not pass. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is yours to ask, Dmitry Vasilyev.
So I have the question, since last fall, many children and parents spoke to you during committee meetings regarding children being demoralized and wasting their time because they find math inadequately basic. Hundreds of students are suffering in the same situation. Taking grade 6 MCAS scores, 18% of students scored as exceeding expectations, that is, demonstrated mastery above grade level. However, only 3% of students were allowed to bypass Math 6, so you're holding back the remaining 15% of students.
However, sorry, you have to ask your question. You have 30 seconds. So
how are you planning to resolve?
Okay, and Kiersey Allison Ampe first.
Okay, so I understand, and I've heard from your son or your sons and from the parents, and I've listened to what you've said, and I've listened to the information that your group has presented. I would argue that saying that a score of exceeding expectations and mastery of skills suggests that they have to be moved on to new material. That's not what the MCAS is set up for. And that is just how that is the name that they assign to that level. But the test is not intended as you pass this and now you have to be offered more difficult material. I think we do need to look at how we can enrich materials for all of our children, and especially those who are at the high end. But we also have to be making sure that we're not leaving anyone behind. I personally like the way that Belmont does things. If we really feel that we need to be able to achieve Calc BC at 11th grade, I think offering geometry as an after-school class with the stipended teacher and the regular curriculum in 7th or 8th as something that's done as voluntarily in 7th or 8th grade is a good way of doing catch up and gets kids beyond that. So I think those are my main points. I think we are already exceeding by far the state standards, and we don't need to go that much.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's the 2 minutes. 2 minutes to you, Len Carden.
Thank you. So, yes, we've definitely heard the concerns of the math parents group. It's hard to sort of get a handle on how big the issue is. There have been only a few families that have contacted me directly or spoken at school committee. From time to time, there are issues that are raised about problems with the district, and we have very limited resources. We spend about $20,000 per year per pupil spending, whereas when you jump to college, it's $50,000 or $60,000 per year. So that's the reality. We can't meet the desires to do everything. We know, for example, that starting foreign language instruction in elementary school is much better than waiting till 6th grade to do that, but we can't. So part of it is limited resources and focusing on where the greatest needs are and looking at the data to determine those needs. And finally, what this group is talking about is not just challenging the students, but acceleration. And those are two different things. Dr. Homan, our superintendent, has been working with the math coaches. We've added a math coach with our budget funding. We've added a math coach to every building, and we're adding another one next year at the middle school level to bring challenging work to students. That's different, though, than acceleration, which is teaching additional, totally different curriculum to the same group, to a small part of a group of students. We do that for 6th grade. It's skipping. So those students skip an entire year of math because somehow they've learned it on their own. That's really a challenging thing for a school district to be able to deliver. Thank you.
Thank you. And Dmitry Vasilyev, you have 1 minute to respond to the responses.
It is pretty disappointing, especially hearing from you that I think that this question really deserves more attention, and it's pretty dismissive, especially from you. I'm sorry, with all due respect. I think that this actually is a very solvable problem, as long as we get rid of the politically very popular aspect of heterogeneous classes. This is a sticking point which prevents us from basically serving children at their level. When we just stuck on keeping all kids from lowest performers to highest performers at the same level, this is the question we have. This is the problem we have. But also there is another thing, that we need to empower teachers. the way how kind of the system works is that it dismisses that teacher position can be really fulfilling. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we will move on for the third question, Kiersey Allison Ampe.
Okay, so one of the important roles of a school committee member is as part of a bargaining team. And I'm wondering, what experience do you bring in terms of bargaining with unions, and how have you improved outcomes during these negotiations?
Len Cardin, first response.
Thank you. So I've been involved in negotiations with the teachers and the paraprofessionals over the last 2 rounds, I believe. So I have deep experience. My new job won't allow me to actually continue on negotiating committees, unfortunately, but I will be able to lend my support in the school committee for my members who will take on that role. I think this is an area where it's a blend. The administration should lead the bargaining, and when Dr. Holman was first here, that was a little bit challenging, but she's been here for a while now, so I would expect her in the next round to take on a much more central role in the negotiations. But we do a lot to support those conversations, and also highlighting where we think are the asks of the administrative team might be reasonable, and what asks from the teachers are reasonable and things we want to do. We focused a lot on the financial aspects, as Kiersey mentioned, and that's going to continue. We were able to meet or come close to meeting our goals of bringing our salaries much closer in line to our neighboring districts, our comparable districts. But all of those have in turn increased salaries as well. So we need to make sure somehow that we're keeping up, but also making sure our relations with our teachers remain on good terms so that we don't face the strikes and other types of work issues that other towns have faced. Thank you.
Thank you. Dmitry Vasilyev, 2 minutes. Dmitry?
Yes.
Sorry, we want to give you your 2 minutes. There you go.
Yes. Yeah, this is a similar question which I honestly don't have an expertise, and I will rely on the expertise of people who have done it, and I will seek every single possible advice I have. From my perspective, the teachers need to be paid well, and there is also another component, which is, as I mentioned, teacher job can be really fulfilling, and that component, the morale of teachers, is something not to be neglected, and we cannot by just regulations, and we should not forget that any kind of regulations we impose is it additional burden for teachers, because kind of teachers are really stuck in several fronts. From one hand, they have teachers, they have children to attend to. Another is administration. The third one is parents. So they're really at the crosshairs of many things which really lead to burnout. And I have friends who are teachers who really burned out, and they switched to private schools where they're paid less, but it's much more fulfilling, much more sane and reasonable. So that's the questions which you need to ask. Sometimes teachers choose less paid job, which is more fulfilling. That's component of morale. How about that? Thank you.
Thank you. And Kiersey Allison Ampe, 1 minute to respond.
Okay, thank you. So just to speak to those regulations, I would say the bulk of them are coming from the state. So they're not things that we necessarily would impose ourselves, but they're coming from the state and we have to uphold them. But in terms of experience. So I forgot at the start. So although I was at home with my daughters, I am trained I have a degree from MIT. I'm trained as a physician and scientist, and I've used these skills throughout, including in negotiations. We, together with Mr. Carden, we've created analyses that help figure out ways that we can achieve goals both for the teachers and for the administration. And that's something that, I've been on 2 AEA teams and 2 AAA teams, and it's experience I would bring to our next term.
Thank you very much. And that concludes this section, leaving us just one section left, and that will be closing statements of 1 minute each. We will go in reverse order from the opening statements, and that means that we start with you, Dmitry Vasilyev.
I hope that you will give me a vote. I will be, as I said, a voice for children. I would like all children to be engaged, to get a world-class education. On the long term, I would like it so academically strong that will beat Lexington out of water. Not to be based on the numbers which are which do not factor significant significant facts. For example, participation in enrichment program into MCAS scores, which our schools take credit for. And we really need to do the most diligent job in serving our children. I see our children being happy, and I hope for the voice. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiersey Allison-Ampe.
Thank you. So thank you, ACMi, and thank you, James, for hosting this debate. I am running for school committee. I've been here for 15 years. I have a lot of experience, and even though my children have now graduated and I'm seeing what our school, the output of our schools look like on the other side, I never felt that I was just doing things for my kids. I was doing things for all kids, and I will continue to do that. I've got proven problem-solving skills. I'm committed to making informed decisions to ensure a strong educational system for all. And the next few years are going to have decisions that need to be made based on values. We can't even predict what those decisions are going to be given what's coming down from the federal government. I think I have shown my values, and you can watch my ACMi spot. And I hope that you will consider giving me one of your 2 votes for school committee on April 5th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And finally, Len Carden.
Thank you. Thanks to ACMi for hosting, and to my fellow candidates, and particularly Dmitry, thank you for stepping up to run. It is a big job to take that step, collect those signatures, and participate in this process. So thank you for doing that. I have a record of accomplishment in the last 9 years. We've talked about many of the things we've done. There's still more to do. As I noted at the beginning, we're in the middle of a strategic plan. There are some important items in that plan that we still need to implement. I'm particularly focused on implementing and communicating to all stakeholders a robust plan of tiered support for all learners called an MTSS. We also need to put together a comprehensive facilities and technology maintenance renewal plan, because that's been done on an ad hoc basis or not done over the years. Consultants are reviewing our special education plan, and we may need to implement changes there. And we need a contingency plan for our federal funding. I hope I have your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And that will conclude this debate for school committee for 2025. I want to express appreciation to my colleagues in the control room for putting this all together, and to the 3 candidates. I know, and I hope the audience does as well, that being on the school committee is a lot of work and a big commitment. So the fact that the 3 of you are willing to continue to do so, or to take it on, is something that the entire community can and does appreciate. Thank you to the 3 candidates. Again, in order, on the ballot, Len Carden, Dmitry Vasilyev, and Kiersey Allison-Ampe. Thanks for joining us for this debate For ACMi and James Milan, we'll see you next time.
ACMi productions are only made possible with your support. Visit patreon.com/ACMi to learn how you can help.